What is Filecoin? Filecoin is similar to a file hosting service like Dropbox or Google Drive. Users can upload their files and share them with each other. But there are a lot of problems with Filecoin. By the end of this video series, you'll understand how Filecoin's obscuring of legal responsibility furthers the ambitions of criminals, terrorists, and pedophiles. Nuclear bomb manuals, biowarfare recipes, and child pornography all have no trouble being bought and sold over the Filecoin network. Normal civilians see almost no benefit from this kind of network, especially compared to the benefit for criminals. This is true even for civilians living in authoritarian regimes. So with that out of the way, let's do a quick overview of Filecoin's key technical features. While you don't have to understand each of these features to know why Filecoin is bad, a little bit of background helps. The first key Filecoin feature is its cryptocurrency. Filecoin's base layer requires users to spend cryptocurrency to upload and download files. These files are stored on computers run by storage providers. Storage providers, like the name implies, store your files in exchange for cryptocurrency. But people rarely use storage providers directly. There are a number of services like these that offer a wrapper or extra layer around interacting with storage providers. Basically, they offer websites where people can use the Filecoin network very easily. These wrapper services obscure responsibility by forming new legal entities. When things go wrong, finding who to blame is obscured away from Filecoin investors and developers, who created the base protocol and onto these wrapper services' legal structures. The second key Filecoin feature is replication. The Filecoin protocol does not replicate uploaded files. A single Filecoin storage provider creates a single copy of data when you upload your file to them. But the wrapper services are who replicate data automatically. They'll send your file to multiple Filecoin storage providers across the world. In the event one storage provider goes offline, the wrapper service will still be able to get your file from the other providers who they made a deal with. This data replication is extremely advantageous for criminals. If horrible data from a criminal is taken down by law enforcement in one place, it's going to continue to be shared from the other places. Unlike other blockchains, this is real data, actual videos and documents with potential danger. Other blockchains only share small ledger entries. In this system, the servers being hosted from lawless places are the ones that stand to profit massively. Any file will always be able to be served from lawless jurisdictions, while fewer files will be able to be served from places like the United States. By the laws of supply and demand, profits are maximized the more illegal a file is. Because the fewer storage providers hosting a particular file, the higher the price the remaining ones can charge. Imagine being a law enforcement agency. What are you going to do to stop a bad file from being sold separately in the system? If you go to the storage provider in the lawless jurisdiction serving the file, you simply don't have the right to prosecute. If you shut down the wrapper service replicating the data from your country, a new one will just pop up. Prosecuting the Filecoin developers or investors themselves is also difficult, because they'll just say our software is so innocent, we don't even replicate files. It's the wrapper services that do that. This is the crux of how the Filecoin protocol obscures legal responsibility away from its investors and developers, and onto hard-to-pin-down, ever-spawning entities like storage providers and wrapper services. The system itself is designed to be difficult to prosecute. The third key Filecoin feature is data persistence. If data is found to be illegal, individual Filecoin storage providers can choose not to deliver uploaded data to their customers. But Filecoin's developers have a suggestion to get around that. It's called erasure coding, and it involves splitting a single file into tiny pieces across multiple storage providers. Even though they didn't write it into the protocol itself, Filecoin developers simply tell users to do this to avoid the issue of non-retrieval.
At the end of the day, if you want to store data in networks, what you want to do is kind of erasure code things and disseminate them to many miners, right? So if you start with large amounts of data, you'll kind of erasure code it and get some amount of redundancy factor. This allows you to have different replicas that give you very high reliability and redundancy without paying a very high factor in terms of into the storage cost. This is very useful when you're thinking about many petabytes of data. If you're thinking of like 10 petabytes of data, you want to disseminate those 10 petabytes over many miners. and you want to be able to just choose a few to retrieve content.
And I mentioned that yellow layer of storage helpers, and what storage helpers do is they simplify deals and workflows. So the core protocol implementation of Filecoin to ensure all of the steps are very thorough and rigorous. There's 6 or 7 steps required to make a storage deal. What these storage helpers do is they actually write multiple copies to IPFS and Filecoin for you in a single API call. So it makes life super, super easy. Definitely do this if you're building an application. Don't try to use like the Lotus implementation directly, for example. And so actually, the lead dev on this was also one of the lead devs on both Filecoin and IPFS. So they really got into the nuts and bolts and figured out. And it's automatically stored with 6 providers around the world, and it stores multiple copies on IPFS and Filecoin. I think 3 and 5 copies currently. But my files will disappear on Filecoin if money will run out on my accounts. At the base layer, yes, but if you use any of these storage services like Estuary and NFT.storage, those deals, they automatically renew storage deals when they run out, so your data sticks around.
What if a storage provider wants to delete data from their computer, as opposed to just not delivering it to a customer? Well, Filecoin's financial incentives are set up so that if a storage provider deletes a user's data, they are considered a malicious actor in the network. In the Filecoin protocol's eyes, they broke a contract and automatically lose money and reputation because of the missing file. Imagine being a storage provider who finds child pornography on their computer. Obviously, you want to delete that, but you'll lose money and future customers because you broke a contract with your customer by deleting it. This is just the way Filecoin works. All this results in storage providers having a financial incentive not to report illegal data that's been stored on their computers. If they do report it, they have to delete it, and then they lose money and future customers. By not reporting it, they become complicit in a crime they otherwise wouldn't have committed. This obscures responsibility. Companies like Google and Dropbox have legal responsibility in the jurisdictions that they operate. It's easy for these centralized companies to remove bad data because they have actual control of each of their servers. Filecoin has so many individual storage providers that removing data is simply not an option. The fourth key Filecoin feature is encryption. By default, Filecoin won't encrypt files. But again, there's significant video evidence of Filecoin developers advising users to encrypt their data before putting it in their protocol.
This data might be sensitive or private.
That's right.
So first thing you have to do,
you first encrypt it. The first thing,
the magic word, yes.
You first encrypt everything client side,
right,
and then you send it to.
But then even after you give me the data, now it's encrypted. So all I do is store it, but I can't read it.
That's right.
There's still a risk that I might just destroy it.
That's right. So
what is different is that first of all, you should probably be encrypting things on your client side anyway. So the users and applications should be encrypting the data before it touches Filecoin. And so that data should get encrypted ahead of time. And so, for example, if you use
certainly an application, usually applications will encrypt all their content before adding it in and sending it to a miner. And so miner won't be able to kind of look at the actual content itself. Medium. And that's where Filecoin really shines, because by default, all the data should be kind of encrypted in the user side, and the source provider should just not be able to look at that information.
Just like everything else, even though the base protocol doesn't do this activity automatically, probably for legal reasons, Filecoin developers are still publicly recommending that people use their protocol in this way. Following their advice, many of these wrapper services will automatically encrypt uploads. This kind of encryption is different from what's used by Google Drive and Dropbox. These companies only encrypt data on the way to their servers, where eventually it's decrypted and stored as normal files. Unlike these companies, Filecoin storage providers have no idea what's being stored on their computers at all. When an encrypted file hosted by a storage provider is found to be illegal, the storage provider can claim they just didn't know what the file on their computer contained. This further obscures responsibility. The fifth key Filecoin feature is anonymity. Unlike Google Drive, which requires users to link a phone number or credit card for use, Filecoin and its wrapper services take no identifying information from uploaders. This is a huge problem, because if you can't take down the data, you should at least be able to find and prosecute the person who uploaded it. Otherwise, if you do manage to take down the data, the person who uploaded it will just change the file slightly and re-upload it under a different pseudonym. Due to anonymity and encryption, Filecoin cannot detect slightly modified files as being similar in content to previously uploaded files, making block lists totally ineffective. Filecoin cannot detect whether new accounts are related to old accounts. There's no proof of individual mechanism within Filecoin to prevent the abuse suggested by a Filecoin developer in this video.
There's a very trivial solution, which is you construct different clients. You have say 10 different anonymous clients, and you make 10 different independent deals with in each case, like 3 different miners. And at that point, the miners can't really correlate between those. And so that it becomes extremely difficult to kind of withhold information.
Of course, this is pseudonymous, so anybody can generate kind of unknown identifiers, like in any blockchain.
Is it like a set and forget, right? You set your price, you can go off and do something else, and that's what I'm hearing, right?
And
it's awesome.
And part of it is the approach to the content policy that really puts the power in users' hands to define what they want to distribute and what they don't.
Not being able to prosecute the people sharing the bad content obscures responsibility. A key theme in this video has been obscuring of responsibility. What this video has aimed to do is to prove how the Filecoin ecosystem is similar to a RICO organization. In organizations like these, legal culpability is obscured away from the top and onto lower-level actors.
Let's look closer at the RICO statute. The 1970 RICO statute was enacted to prosecute organized criminal activity, including scams, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Let's look at some examples where the RICO statute was applied that might also apply to Filecoin. The first case is in dirty pawn shops. If a dirty pawn shop repeatedly receives stolen goods and resells them to others, the shop can be prosecuted under RICO for theft. Similar to a pawn shop, the Filecoin hierarchy takes in bad, copyrighted, or stolen files and resells them in ways that are deliberately meant to obstruct justice. Therefore, the Filecoin hierarchy could be prosecuted for theft. Another RICO example is in auto body chop shops. Auto body shops that repeatedly accept stolen cars, then disassemble and resell the parts, can be prosecuted under RICO. This is similar to erasure coding. While the Filecoin protocol might not do it, the organization itself does do it. As far as RICO crimes go, none beats the Mafia. Mafia bosses lasted so long because they kept sending low-level actors to take risks, commit crimes, and be the ones to get caught if needed. Filecoin investors have implemented a system where they profit off the risks taken by lower-level actors in the network, just like the Mafia. If you arrest storage providers or wrapper services, new ones will just come up. All the while, the investors' hands stay clean. Or do they? RICO says the only way to stop this type of organization is to bring down the people at the top and prosecute them for the crimes of the lower-level actors. RICO organizations often sell solutions to problems that they created. It can be argued that one of Filecoin's investors, which has made early investments in social media platforms, is doing this. Censorship on these platforms is driving people to pay the fees associated with cryptocurrency. This RICO organization has real environmental impacts. They say that they're storing 14 billion gigabytes of data at an energy use rate similar to big data centers. But what they don't tell you is that 99.95% of this data is empty and using energy as part of Filecoin's consensus protocol. Compared to a data center, Filecoin uses as much energy per capacity, but it only stores 0.05% as much useful data. There's a full video in the series dedicated to it. If you don't have a technical background, it might be hard to act on what was presented in this video. This video was the hard one. In the next video, anyone will be able to decide whether they want their universities bankrolling these platforms, as it focuses almost entirely on the social values behind these platforms.